It was just another ordinary Saturday morning when everything started to unravel. Of course, I had no idea at the time. I woke up, made coffee, and sat out on the porch enjoying the early sun. Life was simple, predictable, comfortable. My wife, Anna, was sleeping in as usual, and our little suburban paradise was intact. Anna and I had been married for almost 10 years. Sure, we had the standard marital issues, who doesn't? But nothing serious. At least, that's what I thought. My brother Jake lived across town. We were close, not inseparable, but tight enough to share beers on weekends and holidays at our place. I trusted him like a brother should. On this particular day, I had a work thing in the city that was supposed to drag on, so I said goodbye to Anna, kissed her sleepy head, and hit the road. But halfway to the event, my boss called saying it was canceled due to some vendor screw-up. Great, I thought. An unexpected day off. Feeling spontaneous, I swung by Jake's place unannounced, figuring we'd catch the game, have a beer or two, and just shoot the breeze. When I arrived, Jake looked startled to see me, quickly masking it with his typical goofy grin. "Hey man, you should have called," Jake chuckled, awkwardly scratching the back of his neck. Something felt slightly off, but I shrugged it away. Brothers are weird sometimes, right? We settled into the living room, cracking open beers. Just as Jake launched into his rant about his boss, I glanced around and noticed something odd draped across the edge of his couch. I squinted, leaning in slightly. Was that Anna's unmistakable red lace underwear? I blinked, heart rate picking up. My mind raced with scenarios, explanations, excuses. Jake caught my glance and immediately stiffened, following my line of sight. The silence stretched out between us, thick and undeniable. "Jake, buddy," I said, keeping my voice steady, feeling a mix of amusement and disbelief at the absurdity. "Mind telling me why my wife's panties are casually decorating your living room?" He stared at me, eyes wide, mouth opening and closing like a fish gasping on land. It was at that moment, in the unsettling silence of Jake's living room, that I knew my comfortable, predictable world was about to explode spectacularly. Jake stumbled over his words, sputtering nonsense about laundry mix-ups and old girlfriends. I didn't buy it for a second, but I let him dig that pathetic little grave a bit deeper. "Laundry mix-up? You think I don't know my wife's underwear?" "Jesus, Jake." He dropped the act, slumping into his recliner like a puppet with its strings cut. "Look, man, it's not what you think." "Oh, so she just came over here, dropped her panties, and teleported home." I was keeping it together on the surface, but inside, the gears were grinding hard. I left without saying another word. No punches thrown, yet. Got in my car, hands shaking, head buzzing. The drive back home felt like a slow-motion punch to the gut. Anna was in the kitchen, pouring herself a second cup of coffee like nothing had happened. She looked up and smiled. "Back already? Thought you had that work thing." I gave her a long look. "Got canceled. Thought I'd surprise Jake." She blinked. Just a twitch. Barely noticeable. But to me, that twitch screamed. "You two talk?" she asked, way too casual. "Yeah," I replied, peeling off my jacket. "We caught up. He seems off." She sipped her coffee. "Well, he's always been a little off." I didn't say anything. I just watched her, like a cop watching a suspect. I was waiting to see if she'd crack. But she didn't. She was good. Too good. That night, while she was in the shower, I went through her phone. Nothing. Not a single trace. Photos clean. Messages spotless. Either she had nothing to hide, or she was damn good at hiding it. But the panties didn't lie, so I decided to play the long game. If she wanted to lie like a professional, I was going to investigate like one. First thing Monday morning, I took the day off work. Told Anna I wasn't feeling well, which wasn't entirely a lie. Betrayal sits in your gut like bad shellfish. I started by checking her email. Nothing. Not even spam that looked suspicious. She was either a digital ghost, or she had a burner account. Then I remembered something. Our family iPad. She used it to FaceTime her mom, watch yoga videos, and, apparently, forget to log out of things. Bingo. I found a hidden Instagram account. One she never told me about. The messages weren't explosive, but one stood out. "Can't wait to taste you again. Last Tuesday was too good." Winky face. Timestamp matched a night she said she had a late meeting. And the sender? A username that took some digging, but it led me straight back to Jake. Now it was war. I took screenshots. All of them. Uploaded the evidence to a cloud drive, locked and loaded. That night, I was calm. Too calm. Anna must have sensed it. She got twitchy, asked if I was okay. I smiled, kissed her on the forehead, and said, "Never better." Because when someone underestimates you, it's best to let them walk into their own trap. And Anna? She was practically sprinting. By Thursday, I had a plan. It wasn't just about catching them red-handed. It was about reclaiming my dignity on my terms. I reached out to a buddy of mine, Mark, who did PI work on the side. Ex-military, discreet, and not the type to ask many questions. Need surveillance, I told him over a beer. On my wife. And my brother. His face didn't flinch. You got reason? I've got evidence. I just want confirmation. Mark nodded. Give me a week. I'll make it clean. That weekend, Anna said she had a book club. I held in the laugh. Book club, my ass. She put on a tight dress, full makeup, and heels that screamed something way different than light reading and wine. As she kissed me goodbye, I gave her a warm smile. Have fun with the ladies. She winked. Always do. Mark followed her from the moment she left our driveway. A few hours later, I got a text from him. She's not with any ladies. She's with your brother. At the Bluewood Motel. Room 206. That was the moment I felt something snap. Not rage. Not even heartbreak. Just clarity. I wasn't crazy. I wasn't paranoid. I had been betrayed by the two people who were supposed to be my family. I didn't storm over there. I didn't blow up her phone. Instead, I sat down at the kitchen table, poured myself a glass of bourbon, and started drafting the divorce papers. If she wanted fireworks, she was going to get a legal nuke instead. The next morning, I met with my lawyer. Didn't give her the whole soap opera, just the facts. She nodded, scribbled notes, and asked the one question I wasn't quite ready for. Are you sure you want to go through with this? I paused, then nodded. Yeah, I'm sure. The plan was simple. Serve Anna the papers the next time she tried to lie to my face. Let her make one more excuse, one more half-hearted performance, and drop the truth like a hammer. That night, she came home late, smelling like a mix of expensive perfume and motel regrets. I was at the dining table, papers ready in a manila envelope. She walked in, heels clicking like punctuation marks. Sorry, babe. Book club ran long. Karen wouldn't shut up about her cats again. I held up the envelope. That's funny, because I know you weren't with Karen. You were in room 206 at the Bluewood with my brother. She froze, dead in her tracks. Then came the denial. What are you talking about? She snapped. You spying on me now? Are you seriously that insecure? No, I said, calm and steady. I'm just done being lied to. I slid the envelope across the table. These are divorce papers. Read them. Sign them. Or don't. Either way, we're done. That's when the mask came off. Her face contorted into something between fury and panic. She screamed, cried, accused me of everything from emotional neglect to being a cold, distant husband. It was like watching someone drown in their own lies. I gave you everything. She shrieked. I stayed when you were broke, when you were nothing. And I gave you trust, I replied. And you handed it to my brother with a smile. She threw the envelope across the room. But I didn't flinch. Just stood up, grabbed my coat, and walked out the door. I didn't look back. Because sometimes the only way to move forward is to burn the bridge behind you. The fallout was nuclear. She blew up my phone with messages that swung between rage and desperation. Paragraphs of accusations followed by pleas. Voice messages where she was crying, screaming, apologizing, blaming everyone but herself. And Jake? Radio silence. I moved in with Mark for a few days while I got my bearings. I didn't want to be in that house. Not with memories that now felt like glass shards underfoot. 3 days later, Jake finally had the guts, or the lack of brains, to show up at Mark's place. I heard the knock, saw him through the peephole, and opened the door just enough to make eye contact. Man, I didn't let him finish. Don't. Just don't. He looked pathetic. Like a man who realized a moment of pleasure had cost him everything. I screwed up. I know I did. It wasn't supposed to happen. No, I said, stepping outside. It wasn't. And now it's not just about Anna. It's about you too. You broke something that doesn't get fixed with sorry. He nodded, swallowing hard. I'll give you space. Give me silence. That's what I want. He left without another word. I watched him go, then turned around and told Mark, looks like I've got to find a new brother. That night, I slept better than I had in weeks. The following week was oddly quiet. Too quiet. Anna had stopped calling. The messages slowed to a trickle and then just stopped. I figured maybe she'd finally realized the game was over. Then came the knock at my office door. It was Anna, standing there like a ghost from another life. Pale, tired, makeup doing a poor job of masking the unraveling. Can we talk? She asked. I leaned back in my chair. This a social call, or are you here to sign the papers? I signed them, she said, placing the envelope on my desk. But that's not why I'm here. I didn't respond. Just let her twist in the silence. I'm pregnant, she finally blurted. If that was supposed to be a grenade, it fizzled. I stared at her, unmoved. Whose is it? I asked flatly. She flinched. I don't know yet. That was all I needed. I stood up, picked up the envelope, and opened the office door. Then I guess you've got more than one man to disappoint today. Good luck with that. She didn't cry. She just walked out. Quietly, like the end of a movie no one enjoyed. And for the first time in a long while, I felt peace. With the divorce paperwork in motion and Anna's bombshell failing to shake my footing, I shifted my focus to something I hadn't thought about in a while, myself. Turns out, when the chaos quiets down, the silence becomes a mirror. And mine wasn't showing a man broken, it was showing a man rebuilding. I started hitting the gym again. Nothing intense, just enough to remind myself what it felt like to show up for me. I picked up an old guitar that had been gathering dust in the closet. And I got back in touch with some friends I hadn't seen in years. Real ones, the kind who don't sleep with your wife. Mark and I started hanging out more, which helped. We'd hit the range, grab wings, talk about everything and nothing. It was therapy without the couch. Then, one night, Mark tossed a flyer on the table. Divorce support group at the community center. Could be worth checking out. I laughed. You think I need a circle of strangers telling me it's gonna be okay? He shrugged. Maybe not. But it might be good to hear you're not the only one. He had a point. So I went. Just once, I told myself. Just to see. The room was full of quiet nods, heavy sighs, and stories that echoed my own. One guy caught my attention, Mike. Older, grizzled, had that world-weary calm you earn from walking through fire. After the group, he pulled me aside. You handled it cleaner than most, he said. Didn't feel clean, I replied. It never does. But you didn't lose yourself. That counts. I didn't know it at the time, but that conversation would stick with me. Because healing isn't about pretending the pain never happened. It's about proving it didn't finish you. And me? I was just getting started. It had been a few weeks since the last Anna sighting, and life was beginning to settle into a manageable rhythm. The gut punch moments were fewer. The house was quieter, but in a good way. One Thursday evening, I got a call from an unknown number. Normally I'd ignore it, but something nudged me to answer. Hey, it's Sarah. Took me a second. Then I placed the voice. Sarah, Jake's ex. The one before all this mess. I heard what happened, she said. I'm sorry. Thanks. That makes two of us, I replied, not knowing where this was going. She hesitated, then added, I think you deserve to know something. Jake, this isn't the first time. I leaned back. Meaning? He was seeing someone else when we were still together. More than one someone. I didn't say anything because I thought it was just me. But then I saw Anna at a mutual friend's party, looked way too cozy with him. And now this. I didn't say much. Just listened. I'm not trying to stir things up, she said. I just figured. Maybe you should know the full pattern. We ended the call amicably. I sat there for a while, absorbing it. Jake had a history. Anna was just his latest notch. And oddly enough, it didn't sting. It clarified things. I wasn't caught in a one-time betrayal. I was the last guy to wake up in someone else's long, sad story. But now I was wide awake. And writing my own damn ending. Turns out, getting your heart stomped on by family doesn't just push you to heal. It sharpens your vision. You start noticing the people who really matter. And the ones who never did. A few days after the call with Sarah, I ran into an old co-worker, Jess, at the hardware store. We used to joke around during smoke breaks before I quit the job and the habit. She had that same dry wit, same no-nonsense attitude. We chatted by the paint aisle like no time had passed. You look better, she said. Like you've been through hell, but came back with souvenirs. Something like that, I said. Divorce. Brother drama. The usual. She raised an eyebrow. Damn. Want to grab a drink and tell me about it? And just like that, I found myself sitting across from someone who wasn't tangled up in lies or history. Just present. Real. Over the next couple weeks, Jess and I met up a few more times. Nothing serious, no labels. Just two people who'd both been dragged through the mud and were done pretending the world was fair. One night, as we left a little dive bar, she stopped and looked at me. You ever think maybe this was the reset you needed? I thought about that. Thought about Anna's games, Jake's betrayal, the wreckage, and the slow rebuild. Yeah, I said. It was the worst thing that ever happened to me. And maybe the best. She smiled. Then maybe you're finally free. And for once, I didn't feel like a man picking up pieces. I felt like a man choosing which ones to leave behind. Life has a funny way of testing you after you think you've passed the hardest exam. Just when I was finally catching my breath, feeling grounded, I got a call from my mom. She never meddled in our lives, but I could hear the tension in her voice before she even said a word. "It's Jake," she began. "He's not doing well." I waited. "He lost his job. Drinking a lot. Says he doesn't leave the apartment much. He asked me to tell you he's sorry." I took a long breath. I didn't owe him anything, but he was still my brother, in name if not in action. And despite everything, a small part of me felt something like pity, or maybe just closure trying to get its foot in the door. "Tell him I hope he figures his life out," I said. "But I'm not the one to help him do it." She sighed. "I figured. Just thought you should know." I hung up and sat with it. There was no anger anymore, just a kind of distant melancholy. The past wasn't a wound anymore, just a scar. Later that week, Jess and I took a drive out of town. No plans, just wind and road. Somewhere between gas station coffee and backroad music, she reached over and held my hand. "You're not the same guy I used to see on lunch break," she said. "Good," I told her. He didn't know how much he could survive. And she smiled like she already knew. It's strange how peace shows up. It doesn't make a grand entrance, no dramatic music or confetti. It just kind of settles in, like an old friend who finally came home. Months had passed. The divorce was finalized. Anna moved out of state, closer to her sister, from what I heard. Jake fell off the map. And me? I kept waking up, kept showing up. Day by day, the weight got lighter. I didn't think about revenge anymore. Didn't fantasize about confrontations or winning arguments. There was nothing left to prove. Only a life to live. One Saturday, Jess and I were out hiking, something I'd never really done before. The trail was quiet, just the sound of wind and our boots crunching gravel. At the summit, we sat in silence, watching the world stretch out beneath us. "You ever think this was meant to happen?" she asked. I thought about it. The betrayal, the unraveling, the wreckage. Then the rebuilding. The clarity. "Not meant," I said. "But I made it matter." She nodded, resting her head on my shoulder. And just like that, the story that started with betrayal ended with something better: honesty, strength, and a little bit of love, not born from desperation, but from choice. Sometimes, you lose everything you thought you needed, and that's how you find what actually matters.